Hello, welcome everyone to the Distraction Reviews here on Fightful.com. I am Jeremy Lambert, joined, as always, by the Ripper, Joseph Hulbert. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, jockass. I'm good. Take a leak, Jeremy. I'm very excited, as you can tell. I'm ready. I'm armed with insults that I never knew existed that prove pivotal in this film. And this is going to be a blockbuster show. It really is.
We are here. It is our Tuesday show. On Tuesdays, we review movies starring wrestlers. And last week, after we reviewed Stuber, Joe made the big announcement that we have to get into No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan. Arguably one of the most important pieces of film starring wrestlers in history, I would say.
Yeah, this is like the gold standard, right? If you're a podcast that is dying for content and has to review empty arena programs, the one that you kind of the ultimate is this film because there's just so much here that is funny for a range of reasons. You never have to actually concentrate or use your brain or even attempt to. This is literally perfection for people like us, right?
This is the start of wrestling cinematography, I believe. Like this was the first ever wrestling match that had a cinematic feel to it.
True, yeah, and it's what a beautiful sign of evolution it is, right? To go from that to what we see now, and all these wonderful pieces of film that WWE are producing. So you're right, it really does provide some like timeline and perspective on where we've been and where we're going.
Hulk Hogan is the main star of this film. He plays Rip, who is essentially just Hulk Hogan. The name, we're in agreement here. The name comes because he rips his shirt, right?
Yeah, but they say like rip them up,
Yeah.
not just about the shirt though. Like the shirt is definitely the leading factor of what he's ripping, but like he'll be in a match and people will be like rip him up, man. Like, and it's just a thing that he does. So you rip. There is no last name here, right? I wasn't missing that.
No.
It's just rip.
Yeah, it's just Rip.
Yeah,
That's his name.
and I can't stress enough. You're not looking for something that's not here. Like genuinely, he is Hulk Hogan. He just wears white and he's called Rip. Like the whole thing, the shirt ripping is one part, but he actually has like the cuts in the back of his shirt, right? He works the same matches. The only key difference outside of the color is that I guess one difference is that wrestling is real. Big difference, to be fair. The other one is that he does not do the leg drop here, right? Double axe handle is his move. He was not damaging the spine for the no holds barred motion picture.
Yeah, that's one Hogan said in many interviews he wishes he did the double axe handle or the clothesline as his finisher. So he didn't put so much pressure on his hips and spines. And imagine if he did. We could still get Hulk Hogan matches today. But the leg drop just cost us years of Hogan's career.
I mean, it worked. The double axe handle worked an absolute treat on Jay Bullet, didn't it? You know, it worked in the Red Hot opener, which was, and again, not only is like he basically Hogan, the setting of which he currently wrestles in at the start of the film is just the WWF. Like
Yeah.
to a T, everything is the same other than Hulk Hogan is called Rip. I love that the universe has not changed an inch outside of that one, that one aesthetic white trunk deal and the name. That's great.
His last name is apparently Thomas. So it's Rip Thomas. I guess his real name is actually Rip.
Wow. So that makes me think that there's some kind of like spin-off content that's been like produced. Like there's like books about this for younger folk, you know, and that's when they get the extra details. I don't think anyone calls him Rip Thomas, but I could be wrong. I probably am wrong, let's be honest.
I do not remember the Thomas last name. Maybe it was mentioned when they were talking about his brother, and so that's how we know. But yeah, I don't remember anyone calling him Rip Thomas. It's just Rip.
Okay, I think his brother is going to be. I don't know how you want to tackle his brother here. Like, I don't know if you want to go through the film and then at the end we'll kind of do like a whole 25-minute segment because his brother seems to be a character that's placed in this film by like one of 10 writers who's just like, what about Randy, guys? We got anything for Randy in this scene? He will like appear, and in the end, he becomes a very important part of the film, which I thought was just an amazing element of this absolute classic. But yes, Randy.
I think we tackle this film the same way we tackle all of our podcasts and all of our film reviews, and that's sloppy and all over the place. So
Okay,
we
with
can
that in
talk.
mind,
Let's talk about Randy. Randy
yes.
is, I mean, he is a central figure in this because Hulk Hogan isn't gonna fight Zeus until he nearly kills his brother.
Yeah, so we need to kind of, I guess we should lay some groundwork because
Why?
my main issue with Randy is what he does that gets him in a hospital bed. Because he makes one of the all-time decisions. Would you not agree? Like one of the all-time bad errors as to what he was going to do for entertainment on one evening. As he goes to and I believe I have the name here, Jeremy. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The critically acclaimed television hit that was known as Battle of the Tough Guys.
Yes, they put a lot of thought into this name.
Okay, so this was my main kind of conflict with this film. I was watching it, and so basically, Battle of the Tough Guys is it's a tough guy competition devised to take ratings away from the WWF, which is on another network, by a man that is a level of evil which every villain should aspire to be. Right? That's basically what's happening here. And this tournament's going on, and it's just bar fights, it's chaos, And for some reason, Randy, knowing that the main villain of this film wants to kill his brother, just attends it as a fan wearing a Rip shirt, which is never explained to us why he did this, I don't think, right? He was just going as like a rebellious act.
No, it was a scouting report. He was going to get the because I think they mention, I don't think they say scouting report, but they do mention like, oh, let's get an up close and personal look at what Zeus is all about. And so I took this as they're here to scout, they're here to get the inside dirt on Zeus to bring back to Rip.
But I just felt at that time, it felt like Rip was not even considering it. Either way, it was just wonderful. And then the show has ended, and he just ends up having a fist fight with Zeus and falling. He just gets hammered, destroyed by Zeus. And that's obviously what sparks fun. Now, what I will say is there's an element of this film that is way better now than it would have been then, and that is the deal where Hogan is like being framed as... Rip is being framed as like this super loyal guy. He will not leave for money. There's no way. And if you watch it through the lens of knowing where it goes, it feels like a movie made to parody Ted Turner chasing the WWF. And I'm not sure that was the intention at all, but man, does it make this better for me.
I 100% thought that the main villain in this was just like a Vince McMahon. Like some of the things he said was very Vince McMahon tone. But yeah, you mentioned it, that the network, they're watching wrestling, they see Rip, this network is pulling. I love the ratings talk in this movie because nowadays, I mean, that's all we can talk about nowadays is the ratings. But, back then wrestling was doing these huge ratings, and Hulk Hogan was putting all these networks under. They're trying to come up with ideas. They got game shows, reality shows, whatever. It's like, no, we got to have Rip. That's who we need. And they're willing to give him this blank check to get him on the network. And yeah, Rip is a very loyal man. He's not going to leave the WWF for any amount of money.
Yeah, because like when you say they're watching wrestling, the main villain, you have to help with the name. The guy who runs the other network, the World Television Network. And I know that name, I just don't know the character's name. But anyway,
his name is Brell.
Brell. Okay, so he is not just watching the show, interested as to why it's winning. He has sat every person he still employs down to watch Rip's match with Jay Bullitt. He is fascinated. He has a poster of Rip that he explains is what people want to see. And at one point, and this may have given some insight into Vince McMahon's kind of view of these things, at one point, one of the men stands up and they say, but Rip's already under contract. And the exact quote, I have this as a note here, Jeremy. Contracts are nothing but words is one of the great motion picture quotes in my view, because then, unless I'm missing something, we do like a hard cut to Rip just being at their office, like ready to negotiate. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. Why are you there, Rip? What's going on here? I never understood that. But either way, contracts are nothing but words is factual. I love it.
The best part of all of this is he does go to the office to negotiate.
Yes.
He won't do it. He gets a blank check. No. He says no and all this stuff. He leaves. You're not going to be able to see this, Joe, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He leaves the office and he throws the Rip sign. You know what I'm talking about? The little hang 10, brah, hang loose. It does it like he's walking out the door. He turns around and he just goes, her. And then
he does. The thing is, I like that you're dwelling on that moment, but he does stuff like that throughout the whole film. Like he's so bad in this film. I'm sorry. I mean, he's great in the sense that I find it hilarious as a grown man watching this film. I find it hilarious, but I just couldn't believe like he's having to go so little outside of his own wrestling character, and it's just terrible throughout. Every one of his motions feels forced and just it's amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of moments like that where he'll just force like a wrestling pose into a real life scenario. It's great.
They kidnap him, and then I guess they're trying to kill him. Like, I don't know the purpose of this kidnapping outside of to like scare him to sign this contract, but they're also trying to like maim him in this kidnapping.
Yes, I've got here driver attempts kidnapping / possibly murder, because their intentions are not clear, but the driver he clearly has some kind of plan that he's going to take Rip somewhere Rip does not intend to go. And Rip, you've got to admire him. He's locked in a car and he's planning to get out. He's just kick it so hard that it loses all track of where it's going and flies off the road and just hope you live, right? And that's when, of course, Jeremy, that is when the iconic fighting scene takes place as he comes out of the car. He like explodes out of it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he beats up 25 men, and the poor driver, Jeremy, the poor driver of this car, boy, did it end bad for him.
He soils himself, this driver, and Hulk Hogan or Rip grabs him, and as he's soiling himself, and he goes, "What's that smell?" And the driver just looks at him, he's scared, and he goes, "Dookie." And then that's it.
Yes. That is literally, but the thing is the Dookie part is iconic.
Yes.
Right? But I actually think the real comedy lies in before the line is delivered, as Hulk Rip is like just salivating at getting his hands on this thing, right? Like, I'm not exaggerating here. He pulls the door off and he's just making noises. His hands are shaking in excitement that he's going to get his hands on this driver, and we don't see what happens after that part is discovered. Rip seems a little bit disgusted. He does ask about the smell, right? And that's all we get, but the rest is a mystery to us, unfortunately.
There are a lot of great just like noises in this movie. I mean, Rip Hulk Hogan makes most of them, but Zeus, as he's about to kill Randy, lets out like these screams that you can't help but take notice of. One of my notes is literally just LOL his screams.
Yeah, I thought that was supposed to be Randy, and then I looked and the sound was clearly coming from Zeus. Yeah. Because before that scene, Zeus had like hardly made a noise. And then he did like one promo for Rip, which I think was before this. And then in that scene, he's like laughing with the boys before Randy comes in. He's chuckling. Next thing you know, he's screaming and squeezing him to death. Zeus was an interesting part. I'm going to jump around here, but one of my favorite Zeus things is after that attack, Rip seeks redemption by going to like this. I assume this is like Zeus's equivalent of Big Bear. Like a training camp.
Yeah,
and he has like
the
rings
PC
with Zeus. He has Zeus in the ring, his name and stuff. And there's like a video of Brell talking to him, and he's just, where was this location discovered? When did Rip realize this was a thing that existed? There's a lot of like just quick cuts to it, which is very confusing for me, I must say.
It's a undisclosed location. As you said, it is like just Big Bear. It's where he goes to seclude and train for the Battle of the Tough Guys, and this was the original performance center right here. This is where Papa Paul got the idea from.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas here. The UFC is basically born in this film. Was my take. I must say, one of the parts I loved about the Battle of the Tough Guys deal is like they kill in the ratings, right? They kill week one, smash hit, but people call in and they're like, "My son's disgusted with this." And in a foreshadow of what would happen in the Attitude Era, Brell, who is definitely not Vince McMahon, is just like, if we're in the news, you know? Like,
yes,
huh?
This is exactly when I wrote down Brell is Vince McMahon, is when he's talking about like, any publicity is good publicity. You know, as long as we're in the news and people are talking, it doesn't matter what these people say and all this stuff. I was like, this is 100% Vince McMahon.
Yeah, because one of the parts I love about it is, unless I was mistaken, in this whole timeline of the film, it wasn't like Battle of the Tough Guys went on for like 3 months and Zeus was killing everyone. Like on week 2, he's like, okay, cut the promo, let's get on with this. Let's just get it over with. Like it's not, this is very much a 2020 build here, right? We're not doing Mania to Mania. This is like, shoot the angle, do the match, get it over with, kill them off. That's really what happens here, which is something, I must say.
I mean, when you attack a man's brother and put him in the hospital like that, there is no slow build to that. That you just gotta go ahead. That's the hottest moment it's gonna be right there. You can't wait another year.
True. I mean, that's one theory on it. I'm with you. It would have ended badly if they'd let him just keep going on the way he was going here, right? But I don't want to kind of gloss over what I think is the best scene of the whole film, and it's a pretty long scene. The whole deal where Brell and his pals go to the bar where like all these fights are in it. There is first thing first. I can't believe, and I didn't even think about this when we picked the film. The amount of Stan Hansen references I've made on this show, and it took us watching No Holds Barred for us to actually cover something he's in. That, by the way, is amazing. First things first. He is in this more than I recalled. He's in this a lot, actually, in this particular scene. There are some amazing moments here where Brell is watching two men fight in the middle of a bar, and there's nothing else going on. It's just like there's chaos around them, but there's nothing interesting here. It's just an horrible place with fights. And Brell says, we may have stumbled onto something here. Like he had just discovered that men had fights in bars, and he was like, why don't we just get cameras in here? And week one of Battle of the Tough Guys, they literally just bring cameras into the bar, and that's the show, right? There's no kind of other gloss to this, it didn't seem.
They go here to like find who can like challenge Hogan or Rip, right? Isn't that like the purpose of this bar visit? Is like, all right, we got to find a star on the level of Rip who can challenge this man. And yeah, as you said, then they just realize, what if we just take a camera and film these guys fight? It's like Dana White always said, Joe, if you have a soccer game going on one corner, a basketball game going on another corner, and a fight going on another corner, where are the people going? They're going to go watch the fight.
Hashtag fighting is in our DNA, bro. That was my honest take. I honestly think that, unfortunately, the route Brell took leads to his demise, but I honestly think if he brands this better and doesn't focus on pro wrestling the whole time, he may have the UFC like 3 years early. Because I'm looking at what he did. This is the equivalent of when the UFC was blowing up, Dana was like, Chuck, call out John Cena, man. Let's get him in the cage. You know, that's what's happening here. He had a gold mine, Jeremy, and it's shown later in the big fight with Rip. They have an octagon even. It is not cage, but it is an octagon ring. And that just tells you, I mean, he was ahead of his time, unfortunately, this obsession with Rip, who was apparently, it seems he was like a part-time wrestler anyway, right? So what was his problem here? I feel like he missed it.
We saw Rip wrestle one match. He was in the Brock Lesnar role, but he was the champion. So, I mean, yeah, he was in the Brock Lesnar role.
Yeah, he wasn't drawing the houses, though, was he? He wasn't working like the double weekends and he was out partying with Samantha, who we have not got to yet. That is actually the peak of like bad Hogan in this film. Every interaction horrible. He has with poor Samantha, it's so bad. From when they first meet and he's like looking at the other guys like, wow, what a win for me. Like he's just so terrible in that role.
Samantha is a plant by Brell. As we find out, that's a big twist in the middle of the movie that she is the plant there. She's there to help us marketing. And one of my favorite things is this marketing meeting is like, well, what does the Rip character think of this? And he's like, well, the Rip character thinks this. And it made me think, is he separating the character Rip from the person Rip, which would be a Hulk Hogan thing throughout his career?
Yeah, that was just wonderful. And it was such a flat piece of dialogue that the brain could only wander to what you're pointing out here, because as a standalone piece of film, when this film was made, like it is an absolute non-scene. Every scene, in fact, I need to go off here, Jeremy. I've had enough. Okay, I don't understand what happened in this plot arc with Samantha. Okay, because by the end of the film, Rip's motivation is definitely Randy, unless I'm missing something. Because it seems to me every time he's in trouble, he looks at Randy, who looks very scared.
Randy gives him the finger wag to start the comeback.
And then he fires up. Exactly. So Samantha in the end is not of relevance. But we have these like bizarre scenes where one is they're sharing a room, and that deserves a Harvard scene. What about the like food fight scene that just occurs? And that's like what wins her over. She's like, oh, he was good when he protected them from them robbers.
The food fight scene was amazing because they're sitting down and eating, and then a robber comes in, and I wrote down, so if it's a movie with wrestling, like that's centered around wrestling, which this is to an extent, and we had the main event as well. See, this was a callback. Maybe Joseph, the main event with that scene was a callback to No Holds Barred. And only the smart fans would get it, and now we have clued everybody in. But what I wrote down is essentially wrestlers can prevent robberies, because the kid in the main event prevents the robbery. Hulk Hogan is here preventing the robbery. What do they have in common? They're wrestlers. So if you're a wrestler John Jones did this same thing. That's why everybody loves John Jones. If you're a wrestler sitting down having a meal and a robber comes in, don't worry about it. You're good. Just prevent it. You'll be a hero.
Okay, so now that you've gone there with the main event, I have 2 questions. Well, a handful of questions actually involving the main event and its links to this movie. Okay, so first things first, what would you say was a more credible fighting tournament? The NXT, a seemingly local bracket that took place with a main event steel cage final, or the Battle of the Tough Guys? That is my first question.
I think the Battle of the Tough Guys was more legitimate because we know that was a shoot. Like that wasn't the main event, that was supposed to be like a wrestling match, but then it like turned into kind of like shoot fighting almost. So I think the Battle of the Tough Guys was more legit.
Okay, I like that answer. I agree. It was definitely framed that there is, like, wrestling was still wrestling in the main event. It's just for some reason this poor child had to have real fights. Whereas in this, from scene 1, professional wrestling is basically shoot fighting.
Yes.
Correct? Like that is what it is. Okay. But my real question, and this is where I was really kind of pondering this for much of the day, I must say, how would, with the Rocky films, for example, people often kind of pontificate, right? Well, how would Apollo fared against I don't know, the guy Antonio Tarver played? How would Clubber Lang have dealt with Apollo Creed? Whatever. How would Smooth Operator or Stinkface dealt with Zeus? That is my question.
Zeus would have murdered both of them. He would have murdered, but Zeus was an animal, all right? Look, Stinkface and Smooth Operator lost to a kid. I understand this kid had like superpowers, but Zeus was a killer. He would have killed Rip if he didn't get the finger wag from his brother, and that's when he, started to come back. But I mean, Rip is on a completely different level from all of these people. I thought you were going, was Stinkface based on the Dookie character? And I don't have a clear answer to that.
That did not even cross my mind, but I love it. I'm glad, by the way, you used the phrase Zeus is a killer, and I have to commend
very Joe Rogan.
The tremendous news writers of the time as they covered the Battle of the Tough Guys. And one of the headlines was Thriller or Killer, which initially seems like just, generic Rogan hyperbole. There you go, hyperbole, good word of the day. And instead, it is revealed by Rip's trainer.
Yes.
That he used to train Zeus until he did actually kill a man.
That's right.
I'm correct in saying, I did not imagine this, correct?
No, this is what happens. And then the trainer in the big fight scene, tries to prevent Zeus from killing Rip, and then Zeus just like boots him and it's like, get out of here, old man.
He flings like the referee too. This one of my favorite parts of the whole film, by the way, because that to me was very like Rocky in itself. I love the training montage, like 15 seconds they did, where they were like, training montages are popular, so let's get Zeus working out. And on the other side, they showed us Rip like helping Randy learn how to walk again and stuff. And I had no idea if they were going for some kind of symbolism there. I assumed they were. But it was over before you knew it, right? Like it was, Zeus was pumping away or whatever. And then Rip was kind of carrying poor Randy along. And it was like, anyway, to the ring. It was amazing.
This was not Eye of the Tiger by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, some of the production touches on Battle of the Tough Guy, by the way. Week 2 had like an extraordinary, I believe they called it an industrial arena, was what they named it. It was extraordinary. It looked incredibly dangerous, but my God, visually, it was something.
It looked like, the Raw intros from the mid-90s where they start going into the warehouse. Like, that's what it looked like. And you got, like, Austin and Brett and Sid, like, battling in that warehouse. Like, that's what it looked like.
I'm looking back now and I'm thinking about what we've discussed already, and I don't think we dwelled on the food fight enough, because you were right to go to main event, but we didn't even discuss like the dialogue that took place before the food fight. Like, there was some extraordinary moments of just Rip interacting with people that were serving him food. Am I correct in saying this? Because in the other restaurant they went to, the fancy restaurant where it was assumed that Rip, the dumb wrestler, wouldn't know. He just wanted an hamburger, right? He didn't know what he was getting. No, Rip was a cultured man, Jeremy, right? And then they was concerned. They said, okay, we've shown he's cultured, but will that lose the common? Will that lose the everyman? No, because then they show him in his like favourite restaurant he hasn't been in years, and he's like flirting with it was amazing. And then as you've already said, he saves them from robbery. Great stuff. We've covered that. But we should not forget the line of dialogue. I believe she says to him, the waitress, "You haven't lost your touch," which suggested to me that, like, this is just a thing that happened regularly when Rip was there. He would just fling pies at criminals. That's what I assume, anyway.
The first restaurant scene you're talking about, the fancy restaurant scene,
Yeah.
I was completely lost on this scene. I thought it was the most unnecessary scene I've ever seen in cinema history. I'm just like, what is happening here? Why is this necessary? But you're right. It all comes back of, all right, he is smarter. Wrestlers are smart. That's what they tell us. Rip knows what's going on. But then, yeah, we got to bring him back down. He's the everyman. He can prevent the bang. So those scenes work together more than I initially realized until you just brought it up.
We've discussed enough about how bad Hogan is in this film. We're going to do it more. But we also can't disregard his just general appearance. Some of the things he opts to wear in this film, or Rip, the Rip character wears some extraordinary clothing, right? I mean, his full white attire for the dinner night was amazing, by the way. I loved it. He also wears these kind of like leather, like, I wouldn't call them bodysuits, but there's certainly some kind of, they're like ring attire that isn't for the ring.
Yeah.
And they've got different colours too, which maybe I was just, maybe it's lost on me. Maybe I'm not cool enough to rip them up like Rip, but I was left just stunned at what this man was wearing.
I would just imagine, like, these are all things Hulk Hogan had in his wardrobe in the 80s. And that's what he came to set wearing. And they're just like, cool, looks good, sounds good, let's just do it. Like, he's playing himself anyway, so we'll just let him wear whatever he wants.
Okay, so I referenced it earlier, and I'm going to get to. I really would like, because you're the more proficient note taker. I just wrote down some funny lines that made me grin. Are we agreed that the worst scene of the whole film is them two sharing a room, him and Samantha?
Okay, good. I'm glad we are getting to this, because when we were talking about Samantha, I didn't know if we were going to get back to it. Yeah, them sharing the room. And what's weird is you think initially, like, Samantha is ready to go wherever with Rip. I mean, who can resist the charm of the Ripper? But then we get to the room and she's like, no, like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not here for that. This is business only, essentially. Then, of course, they got the single bed, which is, just appalling that they have to share a bed. So Rip puts a sheet in between, like, hangs this curtain in between. I don't know where he got all this material and stuff from, but he just hangs this curtain so they don't have to share a bed. They go to sleep or whatever. And then the push-up scene, Joe.
Oh, good God.
The push-up scene is... I don't know how to describe it other than we're supposed to have the impression that Rip is either masturbating or he's brought back, I'll use the term ring rat, to the hotel room. Yes, I've shocked Joe with that one. He's brought back a ring rat to the hotel room, and they're getting it on. So yes. Samantha is very curious as to, what is happening here, because she can't sleep. This is, first off, very inconsiderate of the Ripper. So she can't sleep, so she peeks behind the curtain there, and he is doing push-ups, and Rip is just like, don't let me keep you up or something. It's like, how could you not? Like, you're shaking the whole bed, dude. It's a god-awful scene, but it's amazing.
It's so extraordinary in so many ways, and it manages to be tone deaf in the way that, like, it was clearly intended to be that by the end of the scene you're like, oh man, Samantha's real miserable. I'm like, why don't she just want to have fun with Rip? He's the coolest guy in the world. And like, she really doesn't even say anything. And the close of the scene is like one of the 2 times in the whole film that Hulk is trusted with some kind of line of importance. And he says something like, that you build bigger walls than I ever could, or like something like she'd been really cold and mean,
yeah.
And it's so flat. Like, you just listen, what? That was a bit of an overreaction. You need to go sleep outside. It wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah, he was going to sleep in the lobby because they have a more comfortable couch in the lobby than
yes.
This half bed that they had. That you build bigger walls than I ever could. Yeah, it is something like that. What an amazing line that.
Yeah,
was.
And he says he goes, the couch outside has more of a sense of humor than you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're cool. Like, wow, that was just. I think we were supposed to be like, yeah, that's right. Tell her to lighten up a little, Rip. But instead, I was just like, man, this guy's a lunatic. What's wrong with him? But yeah, I don't think that was the intention.
He actually looks like those lines look fine in comparison because there's some woman abuse in this film,
Yes,
Joe.
there is. Yeah.
Samantha gets knocked around by Brell. She gets kidnapped. It says on Wikipedia that they were going to rape her. I don't know if that's a thing, but they definitely kidnapped her, and
Yes.
they kidnapped her multiple times, actually. Rip one time just has to save her. He's just cruising down on his motorcycle, and amazing timing that it just happens to be where she's kidnapped, and he runs them off and checks on her and everything. We have Zeus picking up the woman in the bar and just tossing her into a barrel. So, yeah, none of this would fly in 2020.
Hang on, I need to cut you off. So you said he run them off on his bike, which in no holds barred speak means he pulled his bike directly into the asshole of the man that was been chasing Samantha, and then like carried him in that position until he saw a tree. At which point he braked so that he went flying into the tree. That is what happened. I am telling the truth here. Please attest to what I'm saying.
That is true. That is how he ran them off. I was not going to go in great detail, but I'm glad you did for the audience listening.
Because I want to stress that, like, visually, I did not go in any great detail in the film and like force me to.
Yeah,
right. They
true.
really stress how Rip is approaching this, what Rip's intentions are. He also misses cars by inches in doing this. His only focus is, I'm going to fling this man into a tree. And like, meanwhile, Samantha is just over there. She's just been like knocked over by a man again, right? After Brell beat her. This is all insane, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, a more positive note, okay? Best scene of the film by far. Now, I've seen this film more times than I would like to admit. But there is one scene in this film that always makes me laugh, and I don't even know why, because it isn't good. The scene where Rip is at some kind of like kids event, being like a top baby face and like, you know, glad-handed and being a gentleman, and then a helicopter, I should say.
Helicopter.
Yes, a helicopter comes down with Zeus, Brell, and Brell's pals, and there is what appears to be a 15-minute shot of Zeus and Brell walking towards Rip in slow motion as he gets up his head. And then we get to like a stare down where Rip is just full Hulk Hogan. Like, he's shaking to sell the heels presents and stuff. Zeus is like it appears he's challenging to a fight then. Right, like in front of the kids, he just wants to fight him.
Right.
Because Zeus doesn't care about kids, clearly. So that, to me, that scene is all, and then it goes to Rip's trainer explaining to him, like, you did the right thing, man. Like, you didn't let yourself down. Don't tell yourself that. And it's just wonderful filmmaking, I must say.
That scene, the kids are even like, come on, like, fight him and stuff. Like, the kids are ready, you know, they're ready for this fight, and Rip just stands there. He's like, I'm not gonna do it, brother. And he's a coward, essentially. And then I thought Zeus was going to rip the door of the helicopter off when he opened it. I really thought he was just going to tear the whole thing off, because he opens it with such force that I fully expect the helicopter door to just fly off.
I love that. Like, as a concept, what is going on here is nothing. Like, obviously, you'd expect it's a very simple story here, right? And like, Zeus is the murderous monster, lunatic, crazy man. But I can't stress enough that Brell is not like just some arrogant rich guy who wants to win the ratings. He is an actual insane person in this film, correct?
He is. I mean, he's the one that, he slaps around Samantha. He kidnaps Rip to murder him or force him to sign this contract. He kidnaps Samantha. He kidnaps her twice, actually, because we'll get to the final kind of scene here, the final battle. What else does he do? He gives like the okay for Zeus to kill Randy. I'm fairly certain like Zeus just would have killed Randy if we just didn't cut for no reason. Like, it was just, we got to cut there. Like, I thought Randy was dead. Fortunately, he was just in the hospital. I really thought he was dead. Brell is a terrible terrible human. Like, he's the biggest villain, and you're right, is like all villains should just like aspire to be this kind of level of villainy, because it's not just evil kind of billionaire guy who wants to take out Rip and boost his network or whatever. This is literally like do everything at all costs to like destroy everyone and anyone who wrongs him or is in his way.
I love one of my favourite parts of his character is the scene we mentioned where they're all watching Rip, right? Like, I wanted to ask you, what suggestions do you think he would have accepted other than let's kidnap Rip when he asked for how they were going to win? Because the poor woman, and I didn't get her name, bless her, he says, you're one of the few people I didn't fire, have you got any ideas? And she says something like a sitcom, and he's just insulted at the suggestion of a sitcom. In fact, he looked disgusted. He told her to take a leak, right? Take a leak, he said to the sitcom. He was out on sitcoms. I want to know what suggestion he would have accepted at this point.
I think he would have accepted just buy the WWF. But I mean, maybe that's just too simple. But maybe he could have just bought the entire WWF. Buy whatever network the WWF was on. That could have worked as well.
Yeah, because he says at one point, when they explain that Rip is under contract, the guy does say to another network, right? So, like, even though it's WWF, it seems that in this world, things are slightly different. Maybe the WWF is an actual channel. It's its own conglomerate altogether.
Yeah, it is. So,
I guess so.
Yeah, he can buy the WWF network.
They ain't winning no rating wars, WWF network. I'll tell you, listen, they do many things, and they've helped me a lot in this trying time. They are not having any TV executives sitting there scratching their heads with Rip poster. I can guarantee you, it's not happening.
How dare you? They were on the verge of being sold to ESPN or whatever until the pandemic hit. So
Disney, ESPN, Amazon, they were all going to buy it together, wasn't they? Yeah. That's what my scoop told me.
I think those are maybe the only two. It's just buy the WWF, buy the network, buy Hulk Hogan or Rip, and then murder Rip. That's the order.
I do wonder if there was like a long-term kidnap plan though. Like they had a place for him where they would just put him and be like, tell us when you're ready to wrestle, man, because you're going to be here for the rest of your life if not. Like, I wonder if there was, or it was going to just be immediate murder. That much is unclear. That is.
I think it was like that warehouse that they took him to is, had he cooperated and not, you mentioned it, like when he gets kidnapped and you realize what's going on, his response is to like bang on the glass with his arm, the shield between him and the limo driver, and then kick like the door. And he does all this with such force that the limo swerves all over the road. But I think they were going to take him to the warehouse, and had he cooperated, just been like, all right, you're going to be here for a while. But he didn't cooperate. And so then they were like, got to go to murder, like plan B, murder.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm assuming he didn't always know that he could burst out the top of the limo. Right? I'm assuming he didn't know. Because if he did, he's an absolute idiot. But it just feels, if I was the toughest fighting man in the world, my name was Rip. I feel like if I was kidnapped in a car, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to sit in this car, wait until I am out of the car and just beat up every man that is around me, which is what he does. But in the meantime, that decision he makes. Now, I've never been kidnapped in a car, Jeremy, I must say, but I feel like making the car swerve violently off the road and crash is not the way to escape said car. I may be wrong. Look, I may be wrong, but Rip, he makes it out regardless, but that just seems like a questionable part of his tactics.
Maybe he didn't realize that he was doing this with such force. Maybe he thought that the driver was swerving on his own and trying to wreck things, and actually, by him kicking and punching, he was keeping the car on the road.
True. I mean, look, you're probably right, but even still, there is a kind of extended element to what he does here, where it's like, there was definitely time for him to adjust his plan a little bit, but he just keeps kicking it. And he starts kicking things that don't even have any impact on anything. Like there's like a little side part of the back of the limo, and he just kicks it for no reason. It shatters into a million pieces. By the way, we spoke about the awful bedroom deal and all that terrible, terrible stuff. Where were they? What was the point of where they went? I didn't understand that.
Where were they, in the hotel? Like what do you mean?
What was that trip that they went on? Was that just like I didn't understand why they went on a plane and left to go somewhere.
That was just a business meeting.
But what was the business they were taking care of? We never saw any business.
To get to lay the groundwork for the Rip character and like to get his brand out there and come up with new brand ideas for Rip.
But they didn't. So, okay, look, here's the deal. We see that he says the couch has more sense of humor than her. Correct?
Yes.
We see that. Then we cut directly to the reveal that she was being put up to this by Brell, who then punches her.
Right.
Then we cut to her apologising to Rip because she now thinks Rip is a nicer guy because she's realised that Brell was a bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just sensed that between that bedroom meeting and the apology, there was no other interactions. So I don't know when the business took place. I guess it was my question. Honestly, in this film, it's certainly not a problem. But there was a lot of times, and I don't want to kind of the poor man that edited this film. Look, condolences, man. I'm sure it was a tough gig. I don't want to put things in your direction, but there were multiple times in this film, you must say, where there was like a hard cut to just something completely different. It was like, whoa, okay, what's going on now? And it would then eventually lead to the same thing, which was Rip making a funny noise. So you just kind of let it go in the end, right?
I think the bedroom scene, I don't think there was any business meeting between that. I think like that was supposed to be because they mention, Samantha's like, you booked this one bedroom thing, and Brell is like, you're supposed to be there to get him to come over to our side, not to, fall in love with him or whatever, or sleep with him. So I think that was the plan, is she's supposed to present these ideas on behalf of Brell of like, this is why you should join Brell's network. And instead she just can't resist the Ripper.
And I guess Rip would go because he was so infatuated with her anyway. He was just like, sure, I'll go on an absolutely unnecessary business trip where we board a plane for no reason. Anyway, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this, Jeremy. I mean, it's great holding off, and I'm loving discussing all of the wonderful little intricacies and moments in this, but the end duel, the battle to the death, the actual death that airs on national television in a ring octagon, all-time moment in cinema history, this fight, right?
We get the big ZEUS versus Rip showdown. Before we even get to that, though, we have this convoluted stuff of we got to kidnap Samantha, because of course. Randy is out of the hospital, thankfully. He's in a wheelchair and everything, but he is out of the hospital. I don't know how long his hospital stay was. I don't feel like he should have been let out that quickly, especially to go to a triggering scene like his brother against ZEUS. Probably not good for him, but 1989, things are a little bit different. We didn't know as much about mental health as we do now.
Randy is there's so much to talk about with Randy. We could do a whole series just about the Randy. So when they get to this fight, he's with Samantha, a friend, and someone else.
Another woman,
but there's another woman, right? There's four of them, right?
Yeah.
And like they come out of an elevator and they kidnap Samantha and just leave Randy, which never made any sense to me. But there is a great one shot of Randy's face where he just looks in the ultimate despair.
He looks just like Samantha.
Yeah, and then during the fight, it will cut to Randy. Like, and when I say on his face, like his whole head is just the whole shot.
Yeah.
Correct. And like, if Rip has just thrown one punch in the ring, Randy will be like chuckling and like in excitement, like he's getting him, yeah. And then there is other times where it looks like he's about to burst into tears. The level of emotion this man experiences during his brother's battle with ZEUS is extraordinary. But as you say, the fact that he was even there and they just let him sit there was amazing, I thought, while poor Samantha got kidnapped again.
I like the scene where Brell calls to Hogan. They've kidnapped Samantha, and he calls to Hogan, and he's just like, make it look good for 10 minutes, and then you die. And it's like, all right, so is this scripted? Or is he just supposed to take, like, does he think Hogan is actually going to win this match? And that's why I said, okay, make it look good and then take the fall. Like, why wouldn't he go to ZEUS and call him and be like, hey, kill him for 10 minutes, don't actually kill him, stretch it out for 10 minutes, and then at the 10-minute mark, you can kill him. I did not understand this phone call to the Ripper.
Well, here is where the podcast begins. Because this is one of the most bizarre... It's not even a twist. It's just like a choice of direction that makes no sense. Yes, initially, Brell wants Rip on his network. The idea, from where I was sitting anyway, though, was that like he wanted to do Zeus versus Rip because he thought Zeus would kill Rip. Because Zeus had killed everyone.
Yeah.
He had killed everyone. He was an animal. He was a monster. No one had ever hit him. And like, instead, as you say, it pivots into this like take a dive deal, right? Like, and he's like, go down in the 4th round, kid. Like and then you're left with all these questions, and I'll share some of them. I have the same one you have. Like, so does Brell think that Zeus is going to lose this fight if it's a real fight? Have all of Zeus's fights been worked, and he has just been a professional wrestler since day? Because to be fair, his entrance is about as pro wrestling as it gets, correct?
Yes.
Like a door like slams. It's amazing. And then my other question is, in the fight, when he's working poor Rip over and try to kill him, like, is Rip doing the work thing there of the 10 minutes? And then he finds out that Samantha's fine or whatever, and then he just starts fighting? Or is he actually trying to fight without any regard for poor kidnapped Samantha? There are so many questions left by this one choice that is not needed at all.
Yeah, Samantha fortunately breaks out right around the 10-minute mark. So great timing by her to get out right then, because Rip was definitely about to take the dive there. But it is... So I do think Samantha plays more of a role when he sees her than you initially mentioned earlier, because once he sees that she is safe and she is out, he's like, all right, I can kind of fire back. And he gets the finger wag from his brother.
I don't think it happens, though. Like, I'm with you. What you just said makes perfect sense. Like, that is what I think was supposed to happen. But unless I missed it, there is maybe like a 2-second shot of him looking at Samantha and about 25 minutes of him staring at Randy and being like, okay, here we go. Like, am I wrong here? It felt like she had very much become just a background fault to him. He was just trying not to die and trying to make Randy happy.
I mean, that is true. The focus of the movie is certainly on Randy there. But I think we're supposed to gather that because Samantha was free, Rip was able to fire back up here. I think Zeus is a poor killer because he should have just killed this man. Like, you beat him down this much and then he fired back up on you. No gas tank on Zeus. And
yes, he tries to kill him with a ring post, right? Like, he tries to he drops it through the center of the ring, or tries to do it on Rip's head, which is amazing.
He stomps on his head, chokes him, does all of those things. I do think that it should have been, the phone call should have been to Zeus. I'm very hung up on this phone call, by the way. This threw off the entire movie for me of why are you calling down to tell him this? Like, the phone call should have been to Zeus. She's like, all right, make it look good for 10 minutes, and then you can kill him. And then so when he actually starts the killing process, that's when Rip realizes I'm in real danger here. This is no longer just a worked shoot. He's working himself into a shoot, jabroni marks. And then he starts firing up, and he comes back, and he kills Zeus with the double axe handle.
There was definitely enough going on. When you've built a whole fighting league in a movie, and like 60 minutes later you're at the climax of said league, you definitely don't need to add in the element of like, okay, so what is he actually trying to achieve here? Is he aware that Zeus is like not capable of beating Rip? Is Zeus capable of beating Rip? Is Zeus not a real fighter? Is Rip a real fighter? Why are we kidnapping people as television executives in order to secure the correct time for your main... Like, Dana White, look, for all of his flaws, Dana never kidnapped anyone when he needed Dos Santos and Kane to go long on Fox. Right, that thing ended in a minute, and he was like, look, win some, you lose some. Right, there was no kidnapping.
I wish it was win some, you lose some. He completely buried Velasquez for... That's one of my...
He's a lot more like Brell than you'd think, right? He really is.
That's one of my favorite Dana things, is he's so salty sitting up there after that fight, and he's just like, Kane didn't stick to the game plan. It was the Chuck thing when Chuck got beat in Pride. Just didn't stick to the game plan. Went out there, got knocked out in 64 seconds. He wanted that fight to go long so bad, and went 64 seconds, and he couldn't help but like indirectly bury Kane.
I've got to say, man, like, now that you've said this, I don't want to go off the rails here, but if you're like an MMA fan that hasn't watched him for a ton of time, you have to find Dana doing commentary for Chuck and Rampage.
Yeah.
I have never heard a man go from like faith and optimism to pure disgust and like just resentment towards one of his heroes as he does with Chuck Liddell in this fight. Like, it starts off and he's like, he's doing okay, and then things start to fall apart, and all you hear him saying, you hear Bass and Stephen Quadros, they're shouting, and you just hear poor little Dana with his few hairs left, and he's just going, We wanted more leg kicks. We wanted more leg kicks. He's pleading with Chuck for more leg kicks. But anyway, yes, by the way, one of the best things about bad films is like they'll do, because the dialogue is so bad, there will be moments where something really pivotal is supposed to be said, but it just totally misses with the audience because it's terribly written and terribly acted, right? And it happens a lot in this film. I have to say, Rip is not the only culprit of this. One of the main ones is the one I mentioned about, like, you build bigger walls than I ever could. Like, that just misses totally. But there is a wonderful one. I mentioned all the shots of poor Randy, and Zeus is just murdering Rip. And Randy, we cut to Randy, and the sound, the dramatic music lowers, and it's like, oh God, what's Randy going to say? And Randy just musters on. I have this wrote down. He just says, come on, Rip, try. And like, I can't believe, I understand the idea is that I guess Randy saw that a fix was on or something, but I cannot believe that is the best he could muster up. Try. Sure, Randy. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
I couldn't give him like, do it for the kids or something. Do it for me. Just a try. I mean, in fairness, he just wanted the man to try, and that's all Rip needs. Like, all right, I'm gonna try now. Rip was throwing this thing. He wasn't trying, getting killed, and all he needed was Randy to give him the okay to try.
Yeah, so it's clear from the start, right, that Rip loves Randy more than Samantha, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. It's also clear that Rip is definitely going to murder Zeus. However, I will never watch this film in my life. When I watch this film, and I'll watch it at least another 12 times because it's a tremendous extravaganza. I love it, okay? But I will never watch it and not just when Brell like sets his own death trap up and electrocutes himself with the final. He lets out one final jockass, right? He lets one final, and then he just kills himself. He doesn't intend to, I assume. But as the fight is unfolding, he just starts pulling like cables and stuff out of the wall for no reason. He sets his own death trap. It's amazing.
I mean, the reason is he doesn't want it on air now that Zeus is losing because he's trying to protect the rematch, I guess.
Yes, but like he does one thing, and the TV screen says like network issue. Like it's clear the thing is off.
Yeah,
and he just keeps pulling and pulling more, and he's going to audio. He's doing everything he can. It's just amazing. It's never not funny to me that he also dies. Like, and it's a triumphant moment. Like Rip returns to the ring. He does his pose. He rips him up. He looks at Samantha once and looks at Randy 12 times. And meanwhile, like two men have just died due to the battle. A television network head has just died because of the Battle of the Tough Guys.
Rip gets the final scene. He does the shaka bra thing. And the song plays, Joseph. The
Yes.
No Holds Barred theme song. Do you know the lyrics to this?
I'm not honest to God. I wish I did, but when this film ended, like I did not stick around to take that back in. I didn't. I was just like done.
Oh my God. I listened to this because it's straight out of like Real American or, Hogan's themes. Like that's the complete cadence and everything. You only learn where you are inside when life gives you the test. Will you back down, turn and run, or stand up with the best? When your back's to the wall, what will your answer be? Will you run for the door? Will you run out on me? Like it's hard. It's no holds barred.
That is wonderful. This is look. I know in a minute we're gonna have to do the rating gimmick. Are you with me that this is impossible to rate fairly?
Yes.
Because it is so much fun to watch. It's a terrible film. It's so bad, awful. But my God, I just find it a great watch every single time.
The lyrics to this, I do the whole song, but I don't want to take up more time. But everyone listen to the No Holds Barred song. If we could legally get away with using it on this podcast, I would put it on here. But I'm sure we'd get like copyright flagged, and the WWF would 100% come after us.
I mean, they watch our show every week and steal every idea we have.
They really do.
I mean, TEW series, they're getting ideas from us that we haven't even aired. I don't even know how they're getting in on these conversations. They're way ahead of us at every turn. So it's tough. By the way, I do want to present one final idea. I want to present it to you. A No Holds Barred remake. in
Okay.
2020. Now, granted, 2020 not the ideal time to be doing a film that will not be successful in any way. But just forgetting all of that, how would we recast just the main two roles? Is what I want here. I don't want any more than that. Who is Rip and who is Zeus? Those are my questions. Very
I
simple.
thought you were gonna say who was Brell. I just think Vince McMahon plays Brell. Zeus would have to be. Are we going like an actual wrestler, or are we going
Yes.
like an actor? Okay, because Zeus wasn't really a wrestler. Like this is when.
But it's like there's some hilarious faults if you just imagine one of the current pro wrestlers as Zeus. Because
Right.
in fairness, they tried to make Zeus a wrestler after,
Yes.
and after that effort, I would suggest they just cast a wrestler this time.
All right, I have who Rip is already. So I'm trying to think of who Zeus would be.
I mean, I personally, when I was thinking Zeus, like, and this ties into Brell too. Like, surely you've got to consider Lesnar as Zeus and Heyman as Brell.
Okay.
Like, it has to be considered, right?
I'm 100% sure that for that. Who do you have as Rip?
I hate to say this because I feel for him enough, but I did have Roman Reigns as my front runner because the rip up thing felt too perfect for me. I'm sorry, it just felt absolutely on brand.
All right, I did not go Roman Reigns as Rip. I had the ultimate. Look, before there was Rip, there was Triple H, and that's who is the new Rip. It's got to be Triple H.
See, I feel like Triple H would be better as Zeus, which is the best fault ever. But imagine this film shot for shot is the same, just with Triple H as Zeus, and it is even better of a film. Like, I'm with you, and that's definitely what the scene with the motorbike and the details I mentioned earlier with Triple H. Oh my goodness.
Yes. I think Triple H is the perfect. I was gonna remake it with women's leads and go with like Nia Jax as Zeus and Charlotte Flair as Rip.
Okay, I'm going to go back to your Triple H one before I tackle that. If Triple H is Rip, can Shawn Michaels be Randy, please? I would like that. I would like for Shawn Michaels to be Randy, and I'd like for him to be just as bad in that film as Randy is in this one.
You couldn't see me, but I was trying to drink when you said Shawn Michaels, and I nearly had a spit take because I did not expect you to say Shawn Michaels as Randy. But that is amazing.
Symbolism. Like,
Yes.
Imagine if in 2020 the film is just starring 50-year-old wrestlers, and it's like, yeah, this is what's happening to wrestling, man. It is what it is. It's just capturing the real world.
I'm for yes. All right. I think we've recasted No Holds Barred 2. I think let's print it. They said the budget for the first one was $8 million. I think we can come up with $8 million to do this.
I mean, that I'm going to be honest with you, I'm for that. But if we do come up with 8 million, I definitely think we should reconsider what we do with that 8 million before we definitely commit to this. Like, I mean, I know that the podcast is getting there and people seem to like it, but I'm way off. At 8 million, we should start thinking about what we're doing here, Jeremy. We should redirect our focus altogether, I feel. But I'm with you. It would be up there in priorities, definitely. I mean, but then here's the question. Does Triple H avoid the awkward situation? Like, does he just cast Stephanie as Samantha, or do we end up with a younger female that creates friction that Triple H does not need in his life at this time? That's my question.
I think we can go with someone else. Stephanie understands that it's the movie business, so
Yeah.
you know they've got their real life. We don't need to bring that into the film. We're already doing the Shawn Michaels thing, so we don't need to go too inside here.
Imagine they chose one of the younger wrestlers, and like the Stan Twitter would just be having arguments about which was the best candidate to fill the role of Samantha. Like, they stop arguing about who would be the best Raw Women's Champion. They're just like, I mean, in fairness, Samantha was dark haired. they start running down the list of candidates, but Triple H as Rip. And here's the deal. So would he be like Rip, or would it be a Rip situation where he is just Triple H with the name Rip? That's my one question, I guess.
No, I don't know if you even have to use the name like Rip. I think we could just come up with.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think it's Pip.
Fair enough. You can tear. We could do tear him up instead of rip him up.
What if like he has the water entrance, the whole deal. He just has white jacket and trunks, and like it's like Rip. And I guess the commentators for that would be we could bring Renee and Corey back from the main event.
Okay.
Right, and I guess the opening match would be against the Smooth Operator, right, to go full circle with the whole deal. Now we're getting somewhere.
I like how we've just completely remade No Hold. What I think we've got to put Charlotte Flair as Samantha. We've got to get Charlotte Flair in this movie, Joseph.
I mean, she's on everything else.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I mean.
I'm half expecting her to turn up on NWA Power this evening. I'm waiting for her to turn up at the studio and do an interview with Marquez. I don't know. Yeah, that is a whole other topic for another day. But I agree, it's inevitable. We might as well do it. Someone's gonna, right?
I think we've got Charlotte Flair is Samantha. I think that's everybody that we've cast. So all the important players, anyway. Who's Stan Hansen?
Wow, that is a great question. Stan, by the way, Stan is much better than Stan is better at Stan Hansen than Hulk Hogan is at Hulk Hogan. Do we agree on that much?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, good. I mean, I want to go in the same vein. I want to go with, like, I guess the Gaijin stars now are not quite as burly as Stan, are they, anymore? Right? I don't think you could have Jay White filling the role of Stan Hansen. I don't know. I'm not sure. Jericho in his current look would be tremendous, but he's too big a star, I feel.
I thought, I mean, it's Battle of the Tough Guys. I think we just redo the Brawl for All, and we get JBL, and we get Bart Gunn for this.
Okay, JBL in this film would have been extra, and also because everything he's ever done is like a nod to Stan Hansen.
Yes,
he would 100% make it a Stan Hansen thing, wouldn't he? Be like, paying homage. That's what I'm doing. I'm paying homage to Stan. Yeah, we've nailed this. We need to pitch this like officially. This is amazing.
What is your rating for the great No Holds Barred?
Okay, so on sheer enjoyment, this is a legitimate 9, and I'm not exaggerating. This is about as dumb a film as you can get, and it says a lot about me. I know that like for me that is just immediate win. I'll accept very dumb films over just mediocre ones. However, what did I give Stuber, which was an actual film? 6, right?
6, yes.
Have I given anything a 5 yet, Jeremy?
No.
Okay, I think 10 is the perfect score, which is what my heart says. But I think, seeing as the film itself is a 0, I'm going to split the difference and go with 5. Dead in the center there. That is what I'm giving No Holds Barred.
All right.
Okay.
I am going on my scale of star ratings here that we don't know how high the ratings go. We don't know how low the star ratings go. Look, I'm not rating. I'm rating based on just my overall enjoyment, because that's how I rate wrestling matches. I don't care about the technical aspect of all this stuff. Look, it's a terrible film as far as just acting, production, storyline. Everything about this film is terrible. But as far as enjoyment goes, 4.5 stars, Joseph.
Wow, that is tremendous. That's an NXT takeover main event anywhere in the world. I love it. I can't argue with it, man. It's so dumb, it's so bad, but it definitely captures the so bad it's good thing, and that is like easier said than done, because a lot of the time films are just bad, right?
Yes. This
one you're laughing throughout at how bad it is, and that's all you can ask for, really, from a Hulk Hogan film.
Anything else on No Holds Barred?
I think we've just about. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reviews of this film. It is the lowest hanging fruit for like a podcast like ours or a show, whatever. But I really think we've kind of covered this back to front at this point. Now, I do think there's more meat on the bone when it comes to Randy. As I've said, I'm going to pitch that to you as a separate series. But as a film, Jeremy, I think we've done enough now. I think we've covered it pretty much in totality.
Next week, it is my pick on what we're going to review. It's tough to top No Holds Barred. It really is. Like, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
But I think I have one. We're going to get a film that doesn't star one wrestler. We're going to get a film that doesn't star. These are main stars. I understand Stan Hansen was in No Holds Barred. ZEUS, technically a wrestler. Demolition, Bill 80 was in this film as well. So I understand this film had a couple of wrestlers. These wrestlers, they're in main roles of this film. Not one, not two, three top-notch WWE superstars. The Marine Six, Close Quarters, starring The Miz, Shawn Michaels, and Becky Lynch.
I knew this was coming. I knew. Now, look, I asked you a few weeks ago. I said very sincerely, I said, will I get enjoyment out of what happens to Shawn in this film? Will it be funny to me? If I'm into this film here and I'm watching it, and I will watch it for the folks to watch this show, I'll be very sad if it is just an hour and a half of Shawn Michaels doing his comedy. If it is, we will have a problem next week. I'm saying that now, it will be a big problem. But okay, look, we had to do this at some point, and sure, man. Sure, I guess that's what we're doing now.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. I don't know how good or bad it is. I assume it's more the latter than the former. But I don't know how it's going to be. But I wanted to pay tribute to Becky Lynch since we won't be seeing her for a while.
Yeah, and it's also a good spotlight position for Shawn, who has got to get ready for Randy.
That's right.
He's going to have to get some hair on his head to play Randy. So this is a good way for us to kind of just figure out where he's at, and we'll report back on that now. Definitely. This is definitely going to just become a podcast about my relationship with Shawn Michaels, isn't it? That's what it's going to be. But, we'll do it. It'll be fine.
That's next week. We will review the Marine 6. Tuesdays on this show, again, we review movies starring wrestlers. You can go back and watch the entire series. If you would like, we've reviewed the main event. I've already forgotten half the stuff. Stuber,
Big Show,
starring Batista.
Big Show.
Yeah, Big Show. That was the origin of this whole series, the Big Show.
Wow, that really is the perfect statement to start what this is, isn't it? Yes, that is true. That is true.
Thursdays, we actually talk about wrestling. This Thursday, we amazingly have some stuff to talk about, including Becky Lynch taking pretty much the rest of the year off and probably into next year as she announced her pregnancy on Raw, Money in the Bank Fallout, all of that stuff. This Saturday, the TEW series officially begins. We both have the pencil on Saturday. We're actually like 5 weeks into this thing. We've booked 3 weeks, and then I booked a pay-per-view. So by the time everybody listens to this, we'll have even more booking done. Or by the time we get to Saturday, we'll have even more booking done. So we've booked plenty. As Joseph mentioned, WWE has already stolen all of our ideas. We don't know how. I think my wife is a stooge, and she's completely stooging all this off, but I can't prove that just yet. But we will have that. That starts on Saturday. So 3 shows a week from us, and you can follow Joseph on Twitter at JoelHulbert5. Joe, anything else?
No, absolutely nothing. I've now done my features for the month, so you'll never hear about me writing again until there's another pay-per-view that I have to kind of pretend I care about. And yes, you're right. This is another packed week for us. The TEW thing is going to be a treasure chest of out of context, out of date references, which is fitting, right? But I think we did a good job here covering what he can only be described as a masterpiece, and that's all I have to say.
I genuinely, like, every week when it starts, I'm just like, I just want to get to Friday and just play TEW with Joe and just like kill 3 hours. Like, it's literally the highlight of my week, which says a lot about just where I'm at in life, I guess. But like, there ain't much going on, folks. We're all stuck inside.
I love the opposite end of that scale is like, oh, and then Thursdays I have to get with Joe and talk about wrestling. Oh my goodness. But that's just the way it is right now, I guess. But as you said, this week there's a lot to cover. There is.
So we will be back on Thursday with a show about wrestling. Everybody can follow me, Jeremy Lambert 88 on Twitter. Check out Fightful.com, Fightful Select. We got interviews with Leo Rush. John Moxley just went up today. A new article just went up today. Sean's interviewing a bunch of people. We got exclusive news, including Vince McMahon falling off the tower at the Performance Center because Rob Gronkowski was a coward and didn't want to do it. And yeah, so check out Fightful Select, sign up, help me afford. Look at this beard; it needs a haircut. So help me afford a haircut from Fightful Select, and we will talk to everybody on Thursday.